beautiful new week, and I'm delighted to welcome you to Newspaper Review on High Impact Television. My name is Sarah Owuswanta. Now we have Time Olagunju back on the line to continue the conversation. Thank you for joining us once again, Time Olagunju.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, yes. I was talking about insecurity. I'm sure you've heard of the numerous cases of insecurity, banditry attacks that happened over the weekend in Nigeria. I'd like to have your thoughts on the high rise and the increase in these cases. What's your reaction to this?
Well, basically, when you have fruits growing, you basically have roots before fruits. So what we see are the fruits of a root. And the root causes of these core issues are basically core issues as regards the Nigerian state itself. Conversations around the fact that there is an emphasis on politicking rather than governance. And so these are core issues that needs to be addressed. Like I like to say, if the foundation be destroyed, what can the makeup artist do, right? Than put powder. And so we are having powdered approach to the core issues of insecurity as it concerns Nigeria, whereas it's a foundational issue as to the existence and coexistence of Nigeria itself.
Talking about foundational issue now, let's come down to Imo State, Nigeria. Now, we are aware of the attack that took place on Saturday at the residence of the governor of Imo State, and this was coming shortly after he had a courtesy visit to the president of Nigeria and made a statement saying politicians are the ones funding bandits to divide the nation. Fast forward to a day after, his residence was attacked and a policeman was gunned down in the process. Now, IPOB was said to have released a statement because there were statements saying IPOB was responsible, but IPOB have claimed that they know nothing about this. Also, the governor said it wasn't IPOB and it was another body responsible for this. Now, let me ask you, why are we having so much controversy in taking or nailing a particular body responsible for this? Because the former Inspector General of Police had stated initially that IPOB was responsible for the attacks that took place in Imo State.
As we can see, the issue of controversy as regards what we have in the states is primarily an issue that boils down to how we operate our security apparatus in this country. You see, you cannot take the duties of the courts. In the process of governance, we have three arms of power. We have the executive, we have the legislature, and we have the judiciary. By virtue of the Constitution of Nigeria, the judiciary is saddled with responsibility for deciding who is guilty and who is not guilty. Situations where we take the security apparatus takes it upon itself to decide even before investigation who is guilty or not guilty puts us in further problems that we currently have, right? And so that's the challenge. And so it behoves on the security apparatus, firstly, to put in intelligence into discovering who is the guilty party first, and then taking the right channels rather than taking laws into its hands and then going ahead to perform certain operations on alleged intelligence. And so these are core issues that escalates the situation in the country, and we need to do something about it.
About doing something about it. We're aware that just a couple of weeks ago, the Southeast launched a security outfit, Ebubeago, to help fight insecurity and banditry in the country. Also, other regions have come up with security outfits. But why do you think, or why is it that despite the fact that security outfits are being created in these regions, they've still not been able to stem or get to the root of criminalities? Rather, there has been an increase of insecurity issues in these regions, considering the fact that they've come up with security outfits?
Well, the answer to that is quite simple. Politics has been a core part of the entire, framework of things. And like I said earlier, it's a foundational issue. And if the foundation be destroyed, what can the makeup artists do than a powdered approach. And so rather than we go through a powdered approach to dealing with the issue of insecurity in this country, we need to deal with the core foundational issues, even the foundational issues as regards to security apparatus, the military, the police. The key question is, have they been compromised? These are core issues of concern. Look, you see, the problem is that the process of policy making as regards our security issues have not followed a laid down evidence-based approach. And evidence is the end of argument. You cannot keep incentivizing insecurity in some places in the country. And then in certain other places in the country, certain persons are alleged to have committed certain crimes, right? Even without the due process of court or investigation. So this haphazard, unbalanced, inequitable distribution of security in the country or handling of security in the country has further escalated issues. The key questions people would ask is, how many of the headsmen, the bandits, who have been, even Boko Haram itself, who have been part of being, those who have destabilized the perception and security of this country, how many of them have they prosecuted? How many of them have they imprisoned, as it were? So you cannot have one justice scale on one side and the other justice scale on the other side and expect justice to prevail. What you have is injustice. So this is just perhaps the beginning of injustice in the country until we do something tangible about it, making justice equitably distributed and opting our security apparatus, riddling it of politicking and politics in every sense.
Okay, I believe these points you've listed are the major things we should go back to in the foundation. Now, let's move to Kaduna State. We recall that some students were kidnapped and abducted from Greenfield University. And on Friday, there was report that 3 of them had been gunned down, just as we had report also that negotiation was currently ongoing as the bandit had demanded the sum of 80 million naira. But even at that, 3 of them were said to have been killed. Now, is it okay, or are we going to say negotiation is beginning to fail as a means of recovering victims from the bandits' den at this time?
Precisely. That is, you just answered the key question. I feel what you've asked is a rhetorical question. The context in it is this. You see, there is a threshold that negotiation works. You cannot have a madman on the street holding cutlass, and then the madman is carrying out mayhem on innocent people on the streets, and you then say you want to negotiate with that kind of madman. It's not commonsensical. Common sense is not common sense. And so when certain groups decide to now transition from the level of being, agitators into becoming madmen, killing innocent people, and you now start to negotiate with them, apparently what you do is that you start to encourage other mad people to come out on the streets, right? Because what you promote is what becomes popular. And so over time, our policy has promoted a lot of mad men, people who are out maiming innocent citizens. And so what we have is not a surprise. And so basically, that is the key thing. We need to change our policy towards insecurity in this country, or else they're just beating around the bush.
So if negotiation is encouraging and increasing banditry, what would you prefer the government do to recover victims that have been kidnapped if they do not negotiate?
Well, the truth about it is this. You cannot have a group of people ask for that kind of ransom in billions without, interestingly, certain key people in power playing the politics. How do you move that kind of money out of the borders of Nigeria? Those are key questions we need to ask, right? And so I'm not a security expert, but as an ordinary citizen of the country, I feel that the Nigerian government, the federal government precisely, is not doing enough to show that it cares for the lives of its citizens. And that is why we have the situation that we have at the moment. Have you noticed that when certain crimes are committed, when the police wants to act, you discover that they catch the people that perpetuate the act. The key question is that we need enough political will to stem the tide of insecurity in this country. We need political will, the presidency stepping up on board to ensure that the lives of these children, these students, are saved from the hands of these wicked kidnappers. Look, if you see the situation of America, for example, when certain kidnappers kidnapped an American citizen, the American government sent in the best of its best. Those are the kind of policy statements that we need to stem the tide. And when we do that by evidence, which is the end of arguments, you discover that a lot of bad behavior begins to reduce. And so we need to declare a state of emergency on insecurity on this country, and not the way we are doubly dialing around it like it is child's play.
Okay, so I would like to ask now, at the point we've gotten to as a country with the rate of insecurity in Nigeria, do you think it is time for the federal government to ask for foreign interference and foreign help? Or does it seem like the country cannot handle it at this point and foreign intervention is needed?
Well, the truth about it is evidence here presents otherwise, which is evidence ends the argument that, look, we need collaborative efforts. We cannot do this alone, but charity begins at home. There is no way we can have collaborative efforts come in when we lack the political will to secure the Nigerian people. And that is where we need to start from. A political will by the political class to ensure that there is equitable distribution of security, there is punishment of bad behavior in the Nigerian polity, and then we can talk about collaboration. Or else it's, the road to hell can be littered with a lot of good intentions, or else we will not have a collaboration that works. And so it's important that we start with political will from the presidency.
Okay, so still talking about insecurity, but digressing a bit to the issue of the Minister of Communications, Isaac Pantami. Now, I'm sure you're aware and you know what has been going on with regards to statement he made in past linking him to terrorism and terrorist groups. Now, the presidency released a statement which supposedly backed the minister. Let me first get your reaction to that. When you saw the statement which reportedly backed the minister from the presidency, how did you react to it?
Surprised, but not so surprised, because you see, by the body language, when you talk about public policy is not just, the actions of government. It is also the inaction of government, right? So by the action and inaction of the government in power at the moment, it is evident that there seems to be a mingling or commingling with terrorism in that context. And this would have been an opportunity for the presidency and the federal government to show Nigerians that they are for everybody and they are for nobody. But apparently they have failed to do that with Pantami.
That particular issue, it has generated a lot of debate and outrage, and in the House of Representatives there has been a division, as the spokesperson Honorable Benjamin has said that the minority leader Elumelu did not follow due process in asking for the minister to resign or to be sacked, and that when he goes through the normal procedure, the House will look into the issue. What's your thought on that, considering the fact that this matter is a matter of is quite intense?
Yes, in fact, this matter is a matter of national security. I wish the president himself can have the courage and boldness to call it what it is. It is a matter of national security, because look, we cannot have someone who had views of that nature handling our database, our biometric database, and some of the most important infrastructure agencies and policy regimes in the country. It will not work. And so, you see, the thing is this. Forget the National Assembly and all that. Pantami himself should take up the courageous act of stepping down. We've had someone in the same government, Adeosun, step down. So it is nothing new for him to do same as a reasonable and sensible citizen of the country, willing to serve.
fact that the presidency has given their backing or their support to him, that might not even encourage him to step down, because don't you think that might also be a factor?
Well, I think the fact that he's colluding with the presidency in that context goes to show that he's not a man of high moral standing as he claims to be. Because in the eye of any ordinary reasonable person, right, he should reasonably resign and then correct his acts as a sign of remorsefulness. So the fact that he has failed to do that just goes to show, to a large extent, that the high moral
Oh, we have a bit of technical challenge there. With that, we've come to a wrap on the show this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Major thanks to our analysts for being a part of the conversation on insecurity matters in Nigeria. You can ensure to join us again at 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. to get updates of these stories and more stories. I am Sarah also, and so ensure to have a fantastic Monday and have a beautiful week. Bye-bye.